Man, just something about that music just gets me pumped and and ready to go for another episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Welcome. You know, today I am fortunate, once again, to have an extraordinary guest on my show. So let me talk a little bit about her before she comes on. She's been in the anchoring industry, news anchoring, radio broadcasting for over 33 years. It doesn't mean that 33 years means that she's outdated. It means she brings a lot of experience to the table. We watched her for years. I watched her, idolized her skills, her attributes, and basically being a master of her craft by always staying in that beast frame of mind. She has been a pillar, and she still is a pillar to the community by helping out in the health-related areas, as well as impacting new and innovative things that this city needs. She is a mother, a wife, and more importantly, a friend to all of us in the community and throughout the United States. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the Andre The Beast Show my good friend, Miss Debbie Knox.
Andre, thank you. That's quite an introduction.
I'm getting good at this.
You are getting real good. I'm hiring you. That's great. No. Thank you very much. That's sweet.
So, Debbie, tell the viewers a little bit about you. I mean, your list of achievements clearly goes on and on, but I'll allow you to tell a little bit.
Well, professionally, just a real quick, backstory. So I graduated from Michigan back in the day. I went to work at Wham Radio, and
where is that at?
Wham Radio is in Ann Arbor. It's AAM, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I was there, and I started on the radio, and I couldn't speak very well, and so I got a couple of lessons of trying to do better in speaking, and that worked. And I did some traffic work, then moved on to WNDU up in South Bend, then over to the ABC affiliate SJV in Elkhart, and then 1980 moved to Indianapolis and went to work at Wish TV. And then took a year off in 2014, and then started at CBS4.
CBS4.
Your home of the Colts, yes, right. So yeah.
So your career basically was in Michigan. So tell me a little about what went on in Michigan, and more importantly, why you left Michigan to come to Indiana.
Michigan. Well, when I got out of college, I thought, well, I'm going to be a newspaper reporter, and that's a pencil and paper at the time, and just get out there and tough it out and talk to people, and it didn't happen that way. I was a cocktail waitress at the Ann Arbor Inn. And I wore a low neck sweater and a short skirt, and I got a job at a radio station. So that kind of got me going in broadcasting. I never really intended broadcasting, and that got me to the Wham Radio, and then and then my mother, who's working her magic, it was back in southern Lower Michigan, and she said, "Hey, there's a TV station that's hiring people. You ought to come down here and try out for the job, because radio, you're just going to make a certain amount of money. You're not going to make a whole ton of money, but so that's where I kind of got my direction. It was the opportunity at a restaurant where a radio station owner was. I was bringing him drinks, and he said, "Hey, girlie."
That's usually how it starts with a drink.
That's right. That's about right. How about you want to go to work for a radio station? I said, "Sure. Yeah, so that would be great."
So, but there was a career thought about long before radio and broadcasting too. Let's talk about the ski trips.
Oh,
and the cocktail drinks there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was get right down to it. So I started in Michigan, but then I decided that I wanted to live in Colorado for a couple of years. And that's kind of related to old boyfriends and stuff like that more than you want to know.
Well, the viewers might want to know.
But yeah, so I moved out there, and then I thought, gosh, I got to get back into school because I was I was working for a physician out there and rediscovered my ski roots, you know. So I started skiing out in Breckenridge and skiing in Vail. I'm skiing out there. You ski a lot because it's the slopes are just so long. So I got pretty good at it, and I thought I was pretty good. And I started exploring the idea of becoming a ski patrol, which you have to become an EMT or paramedic. It's a much bigger deal than just, hey, I can ski really well. So that went on the back burner. But I love skiing, and I haven't done it for a couple of years because I just haven't been out there. But that is probably my favorite sport in terms of my own personal abilities. You know, my dad was always like, "You can't do anything because you're a woman," you know. And I said, "Oh, wait a minute," you know. So and he's old school, very old school. So and he was a skier, and then when I learned to ski, he had new respect for me, and that was almost part of my reason for like wanting to get good at it.
You learned how to ski in Michigan?
Learned in Michigan, but got good at it in Colorado.
Okay. How long were you in Colorado?
A couple of years, 2.5 years. So it's just, you know, but when you're going every weekend. And it's easy to get to Vail from Denver or Boulder, and
then you went from Colorado to
back to Ann Arbor, where I then graduated from Michigan, and then I worked at the radio station there, and then it was on to TV.
So then your career boosted Channel 8.
It was, from South Bend and Elkhart, I got to Indianapolis in 1980, and I got a job. Lee Giles hired me, God love him, and that started me. And I started on the noon news at Wish TV and doing reporting. And
how did you wind up becoming the anchor, though? How long did it take to become the anchor at Channel 8?
It took maybe about a year or so. There was a woman by the name of Carol Krause that nobody knows probably anymore, but I remember. She's good, very good reporter and very good anchor, and she had a boyfriend that was working in Chicago at WBBM TV, and she left to be with him, and so the opening was there, and I just walked right in and started doing the early news, and just sort of was working with Mike Ahern and me, and went on from 5 to 6, and then 6 to the 11. So
were you nervous? I mean, because did you have this experience to go right into that seat?
I had some experience, but certainly not at the level of, you know, thinking I was really ready for it. But I was watching other people at that point, like people like Jane Pauley, who was from Indianapolis. And Jane was kind of like a big icon for me at the time, because I saw her bounce from IU to Wish TV to MAQ.
She was at Wish TV?
She was at Wish TV. Yeah, Lee Giles hired her. That's his claim to fame. And then she went to MAQ in Chicago, and then to the Today Show.
Is there a reason he didn't hire David Letterman?
You know, David Letterman worked at THR. He did work, but we just didn't have an opening, I'm guessing. But Letterman was, he's another Indianapolis guy.
Now, you're being the head news person for Channel 8, you had a longevity there for 33 years.
Right. I was at Wish TV for 33 years.
What were some of the most memorable moments you had there?
It probably, it depends on what you're talking about. I had great moments with Mike Ahern. He was a funny guy and a good newsman, and I learned a lot from him, and I got to hang with him, and I got to meet a lot of interesting people along the way. I did a lot of interesting interviews with people along the way. I interviewed, Mrs. Bush, George W. Bush's mother.
Right.
People along the way that, were fun to meet. Patty did a lot of entertainment kinds of people. Early on, I was doing some of that, but she really was much better and took over that kind of thing. But I just did a lot of interviews. George Bush's mother is a real tough cookie, I discovered.
What do you mean by cookie?
I thought I could just say, hey, I could make a criticism of her, hey, what about this about your husband? And it was George Sr. at the time.
Right.
And she looked at me in the eye, and it was like, you are not messing with my husband. And I could just see this very grandmotherly look with the pearls and the gray hair, and then something very tough on the inside. And I could feel it radiate. I felt the same thing with Hillary Clinton. I interviewed Hillary Clinton when she was running for president back in 2008 when Obama was, I interviewed Obama a couple of times too. But she was that kind of tough, I'll answer your question, but just hardness there that you aren't going to get past it. She's ready to fight, sort of thing. So
speaking of the different presidents and different people that you interview, what is your stance so far with the way the government and so forth has changed, without getting too technical?
How it's just where we are politically right now?
Yeah.
Well, obviously very divided, and I'm hoping that it doesn't take a disaster for us to come together. It was 9/11. Everybody sort of got behind 9/11 and that united the country. I don't want anything like that. I just hope that we can all sort of talk through our differences, yeah, and find out about each other. Because when you really get to know each other, there's not that many differences. It's, you're hearing people scream on TV, and you need to let it go. So
when we talked about, why don't you tell me a moment in your life that was so heartening that you just felt like there was no end, and you managed to come up out of there and with flying colors and go, wow, I couldn't believe I'd done this. We've all had those moments.
Yeah, you bet. I've had a number of them, and the one that comes to mind was when I was living in Elkhart, and I knew I had to grow my career. I knew I had to Elkhart and South Bend are lovely places, but it's small market, and you're not going to be able to grow the way you'd like to professionally. And so I started, down the road of, sending out tapes, and then and trying to get a job and an interview with another TV station, and I got rejected a number of times. And I got, I started sending money to Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, and Finding God on TV, but it was, it was because I was, worried so much about my life and if I was ever going to get this opportunity to ever go beyond. And
was your family hard on you that made you get to that thing? Like they was demanding that you succeed because your father was a doctor.
Yeah, he is a doctor. He's still alive. He's 90. There was always an expectation that I was going to get through college and support myself. And that was, and the way I got motivated is my mother would just absolutely drill. She would let me know every day how much she spent on me. So it'd be like, Debbie, do you know how much I paid for that dress you're wearing? And I thought, oh, Mom, well, I paid $80. It was just that. And so what drove me was to get away from that.
Right,
I didn't want to have anybody control everything. So I had a lot of internal ambition. So anyway, I got into sending tapes out, and then finally it just kind of like this moment, a light bulb went on and said, Debbie, you need to be very disciplined about sending out your tapes and get less emotional about it and just hit it like you do with weight loss and everything big in your life. You just got to get serious about it. And when I did, opportunities started coming my way, and it was a learning lesson for me. I was just like, get prepared, make it a business, be serious about it, and then proceed and do what you need to do. Don't be, I got rejected and everything's terrible, and get all caught up in that. You need to no, okay, you expect that kind of thing, but let's move on,
When you got the rejection letters, did they briefly tell you why you got rejected?
No, not necessarily. No, it was just sort of like, well, sorry, we don't have any openings right now, so see ya. So I didn't know if it was a bad tape or I looked bad or, all that sort of thing. I had no idea at the time.
So I guess being the celebrity that you are, because let's be real, you're a celebrity, you're an icon. People really don't realize that you really probably had a tough struggle to even get to where you're at.
Well, I had some struggles but compared to what people go through in life, right. I've sort of looked at my life and go, babe, you had it difficult in some areas, but compared to some folks.
What do you mean when you say some folks? Like, how do you compare what you went through in our times? Yeah. Moving forward into now, as far as the struggles.
Well, I think in terms of, I never had to worry as a kid about money. My dad had made enough, and he wasn't a millionaire by any means, but he was a hard worker, and we never had to worry about stuff like that. And I know a lot of people growing up who have had to worry about where the next meal's coming from. Right. I never had that. My mom had a lot of issues as we were growing up, and I think she came from a very poor background, and she had a lot of mental stuff going on, and it was depression, and so there was a lot of trauma and some turmoil during that growing up with her. She's sorted a lot of it out, but it was hard at the time. And as a kid, you don't understand what's going on. So, and I was taking responsibility for whatever. If she would have go through a depression, it was I caused it, and I realized it really wasn't me many years later. But anyway. So yeah, you learn, and you just and then you think about other people who've had it much tougher, and abusive parents and people who have all sorts of emotional issues and difficulties and stuff. I feel like I've been lucky.
That would probably explain one of the reasons that you're so passionate about one of the fields that you're in the news area, which is health related issues. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, growing up, I was my dad was always talking about medical issues. My mom was a nurse, so I was just sort of always around it. So it was comfortable for me. And when I got to Wish, it was like, well, hey, we're going to do health segments. Why don't you get involved in doing that? And I said, that's kind of a perfect fit for me at this point. So I got to, and I knew how to, it's funny, I knew how to kind of chit chat with doctors and kind of get through the, I'm the doctor and I'm the smartest person in the world, and I know I get that. I've seen that before. I'm not bowled over by that. So I was able to make a lot of contacts and do a lot of fun stuff. Did stories about heart transplant surgeries, and early on, way back in the '80s, with a doc from Methodist and stuff like that. So it was fun stuff that I got to, explore hearing devices that were changing and technology. And even now, I just did a story about this. I'm doing a story about a stroke mobile unit. They've got a mobile unit that if you're having stroke symptoms, they will come out and get you and treat you 35 minutes faster than if you go to the hospital. And that's here in Indianapolis. So
is
I
that
love
on
stuff
Channel
like
4?
That. That's going to be on Channel 4. That's right. I'll get you on my podcast. We'll talk about it.
Oh, yeah. So speaking of podcasts, you're also thinking about doing a podcast with Jason, maybe.
I know. Hey,
maybe.
I know a guy.
Hey, what a great producer. I love hearing about now we can turn this all around. I can start interviewing you real quick.
No, do that.
No. But it's been interesting to see how this has all grown, and what a setting. I wish all of your listeners and viewers could see this. This is a cool setup.
Well, Jason.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jason. Yeah, great job. And there's a whole nother studio downstairs too. It's amazing.
Downstairs and in the other room.
Yeah, this is like Hollywood. This is terrific. Anyway.
You got nominated for a lot of major awards. Tell me the most impactful one that really stands out.
Well, I've won 3 Emmys, and 2 of them were for the newscast that I were in. But then I got an Emmy for some health reporting that I did, and that was a series of reports on women eating their placenta for after they have a baby. You've heard of that. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
There are women, as the Kardashians were into it, and it's sort of a trend. I think people still do it. You dry, whatever. You may not want to know all about that. But I also, in that same series of reports, I did a story about a kid at Butler who was playing tennis, and he was involved in a shooting before he got to Butler, and he was shot in the hand. And he was a tennis player, and he had a scholarship to go to Butler, and he talks about how playing tennis with his hand was falling apart, but he made it through and got to Butler, and it was an incredible story. And then some other stories that are related to that. So I'm very proud of those stories. I'm also very proud of a story I did about a guy that had leukemia, and his insurance wasn't going to pay for the treatment. And I got that really clued me into about how, we need health care in this country. If you get me started, I'd talk about that for all day long too. Everybody's got a right to health. And everybody, I know it's an expensive thing, but everywhere else in the world, the industrialized countries have some form of a basic health care package for people. And I think we need to go in that direction. I know people have issues with it and the expense, and I get it. There's a lot of stuff to work out. I thought Obamacare was going down the right road. So, and I did a story about a guy that his family went to bat for him because he heard he had leukemia, and the insurance company saying, we're not paying for any more treatments, and this poor guy's dying. And it was I documented their struggle about battling insurance companies and getting on the phone and going through 15 different people. And the guy, he was a good guy. He lived next to his parents. He went to IUPUI. He was an engineer, he's self-made kind of guy, and then got no help, from anybody because, they just wouldn't pay for his treatment. So
how does that make you feel? I can see it's emotional to you right now. It
made me realize what people go through. And if you're sick and you're trying to fight insurance companies or get some, you can go, in this country, you can go broke really easily. I've got friends in Europe that they will not come over here unless they take out an insurance policy because if something happens here, they'll go back with a bill that's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over here. So it's a different system. There's some great strengths in research, and we do a wonderful job of taking care of a lot of people, but a lot of people are just not that healthy in this country, and it's expensive. It's very expensive. So anyway.
Well, we know that you take care of yourself because you got a lot of notoriety from the last couple of years, the weight loss that you've achieved. So evidently you must have saw some, let me rephrase this. Benefits, but what do you think caused the increase in weight, and what led you down the road to say, I need to change this?
It was, a lot of it is just bad habits, not being mindful about what you're eating, because that's the big battle. I don't have to tell you, I'm preaching to the choir because you are all about that.
Hey, you don't know what I eat today, does it,
Well, I know what you're drinking. No. So yeah, I just let it, you just let it slide.
Yeah.
You sort of do these things, and then, life takes over, and you're busy, and you're not paying attention, and you slap a pizza in the oven, and you're just like not eating right. And that happened to me for way too many years. And then finally it was like, what in the heck you're looking at pictures of yourself going, that's not me. That's just, that was never, I don't want to look like this. So then I got more serious about it. And
you were still doing news too, correct?
I was, yeah. It was toward the end of my time at Wish TV, and I thought I need to get myself together here. So I got serious about that. Got serious about my diet. Worked out assiduously, man. I was like going over. I lived near Butler. I was going over to Butler. I'm lifting and running and doing everything, and I dropped 60 pounds. I think so. I know some of this. Well, thank you. Some of this has come back. A pandemic. I'm still working on it, but it was just a lot of sloppiness, and it was starting at about age 50, not being mindful of what I was doing.
It's funny you keep mentioning Butler, but you went to Michigan. You are a big Butler supporter. So tell me, is there a connection with you in Butler?
Yeah, well, I wish there was more of a connection. No, you're right. I went to Michigan. Both my kids graduated from Butler. Okay. So there's that. And my husband at the time he's a psychologist, and he was the director of the counseling center there. So I had a lot of connections, and I lived 5 minutes away. Okay. So he was able to, because he was on the staff, able to get access to their workouts facility. So that's where I went.
So you have two children.
Two children, yeah.
Tell me about them.
Yeah, Michael Tierman is a lawyer with Ice Miller. He does real estate law there. Okay. And my daughter is Anna Tierman Kidwell, and she is a nurse practitioner. She's a psychiatric nurse, and she works at the Jane Pauley Clinic up in Anderson. So
I'll be to see her when I leave this.
Yeah, right. She knows people so I know that. Yeah. We're a small world thing,
Now, your son is also a
DJ.
What's his DJ name?
Tier Monster. Monster. And he appears on Twitch every once in a while with F Moon, or that's, I don't.
Jason, you ever heard of that?
No. They're pretty small.
Of course I have.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, he's had a DJ business since he was in high school, and he does weddings and occasional stuff now.
A lawyer that's a DJ.
Yeah, and during the pandemic in the beginning, he was doing like these crazy graphics and doing DJ music with this other kid that he's with. So he enjoys it, and he's a classically trained pianist. So
really?
you ought to hear him play. Yeah, and when I go over to his house now, it's like, hey, Mom, listen to this, and it's all Beethoven and Brahms, and it's beautiful. He does a great job.
We now have the ability to go mobile, so we might just do that on one of the upcoming podcasts.
There you go.
So another question I meant to ask: you've been in the broadcasting in the news industry for years. You seen a shape. You retired.
Yes,
What was life like when you retired?
I was ready to retire. I'd worked 33 years at Wish, and I was tired. I mean, physically just tired. I was doing the late news for a number of years, and I just felt like it was time for me to go. Do you ever just take your hat? It's time to go. So it was time for me to go, and I thought, well, I'm going to just go. And I had no job and wasn't planning on working.
Right.
But I did some commercial work for Honda and some other things, and kind of got involved with Patty and her production. That's when I kind of met you, and we were doing some workout stuff together for a show and everything. So it was kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, like August 11th,
I remember when you got the call. We was at what was that restaurant called?
Probably Patashu or something like that. You like French food, yeah. You're into French food.
And you said, "Hey, Andre, I got this offer."
Yeah.
And I was like, go for it. Mm-hmm. So how did it feel knowing that the new television station, Channel 4, wanted you?
That was pretty cool. Yeah, I was, by this time, I'm way down on my weight. I'm like 60 pounds, so I knew they wanted to check me out just to see what it was going to look like on TV.
Right,
and that was that was remarkably helpful in keeping my longevity. Not only was I feeling better, my blood pressure's down, everything was, I just generally had more energy, but it was the way that I was able to, access the new job and be considered. And I got offered the job. It's been great.
I'll tell you what I like about the Channel 4, and I like the direction in which they went, the new CB4. Did I get it right?
CBS4.
CBS4.
Yeah, very good. You got it.
The new CBS4.
New CBS4.
News anchor Debbie Knox.
Yes.
What I like about the direction that you guys went, you guys also bought Brian Wilkes.
Brian Wilkes is on Fox 59. See, we are sister stations in the same building. CBS4 and Fox 59 were all together. Chris Wright is on CBS4. Brian's on Fox. They all sort of work together, but
Chris Wright. That's really, really neat how they did that. You seen the changing of the guards.
Yeah.
Let's be real. You seen the changing of the guard. We won't get deep, but we seen when the transition took place. How did that make you feel?
Just seeing how, how the TV whole business was going, or how you see the change in people.
The change in the news anchors. They're now young. They're vibrant. It's a different
different landscape.
Different landscape. What did you feel that you brought to that landscape, or are they still reaching out to you? And how did you feel when it did come into effect?
Yeah, well, one of the things that TV stations do is a lot of research. They want to, and one of the things I have gleaned over the years that I have pretty good name recognition.
Yeah, you do.
Especially with older viewers.
Yeah,
not so much younger viewers, but older viewers. So that.
Wait a minute, older viewers.
Older viewers, I'm not saying the age. I'm just saying I grew up with you, Debbie Knox. I get a lot of that. So and I'm happy about that. So so I know that they've done research, and Debbie Knox, that name is, people a number of people know it. And it's hard in the TV business to get your name out. It takes a long time. I've been here for X amount of years. So that's been the thing that has helped me through this transition and watching, because I look at these young kids coming up, and they're smart and they're hardworking, and they got to edit and write, and they're called MMJs, and they work their butts off, and I'm impressed. I worked hard too. But it takes time to get that name recognition, and that's what a lot of stations will look at when they're looking to hire an anchor. Reporters are a little different situation, but so I knew that that was working for me. So
your brand is definitely your name, but you've also have a great connection with other brands, and one of the brands is the woman that you share the same birthday with.
Patty Spitler. I know.
Tell me about you and Patty. Y'all got to be like this.
Yeah, well, we are. Yeah, we've worked together at the same station for years and years and years, and Patty and I have a very special friendship. When she, she has a hearing deficit. She's pretty open about that. And when that was starting to happen, I was the first person, I think she would tell you this, that I took her to the hospital to a speech and hearing guy to check her because she was having dizzy spells. So I've been around her through thick and thin in terms of like that journey for her. And I know that she has hearing aids and stuff like that, and she's very productive. But we've, she and I have sort of kept ourselves invented and reinvented. She's like doing great stuff with her TV shows that she's doing. I've been able to stay in news, and we're both busy. We always like, hey, let's have lunch, and it takes us 6 months to get together because we're both so busy. But she's a phenom. She's a little workhorse.
I call her the hardest working woman in Indiana.
She is. She's very hard working. She's doing it all. She's on the air, doing sales, got the dogs doing. I mean, she's she's a good friend. She's a good gal. She's tough broad. I like her.
On a serious note, we just got the verdict about the horrible tragedy that happened. From a news perspective.
Are we talking about Derek Chauvin?
No, the George Floyd.
Oh, George, yeah.
George
Derek,
Floyd.
Okay.
From a news standpoint, come at me from two directions: from a news standpoint and from the Debby Knox side, the non-news. How did that make you feel? And from everybody, I would assume had the same reactions watching that happen. That woman that just videotaped the whole time. There was no question in anybody's mind what happened there. And you want justice so bad in this case. We all saw how the country erupted last year, and the frustration. And this is not new for the black community. This is something that's been going on and on and on. And now you could not escape that conversation about what's going on. So it's been a difficult year. You want to see change. I wouldn't want to be a police officer. I know that a lot of them deal with some very tough situations. I get it. I totally get it. But in this case, please, and I was so happy that Mr. Chauvin was found guilty, and we've just begun these conversations. There needs to be a lot more talk and conversation about police training and that sort of thing. We got to do it. We just have to do it. It's hard, and there's a lot of defensiveness, but we have to do it, and it's because we got to deal with this kind of issue in this country. This just popped in my mind. I sent you that email. Do you remember that email?
Which one?
The one about the neighborhood situation?
Yes. That's kind of got a bunch of people talking at the station.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you can tell your audience what this is all about now?
Yeah. There was a letter that came in the e-box, my email box. It really came from a friend of mine. I don't want to give his name. And he sent it to me. Yeah. And I was like, is this real? And he goes, Dre, this came to me. And I said, well, let me forward it. And I sent it to you. The letter dealt with somebody that was a little upset about the number of minorities that was moving into their neighborhood, and suggested that since the insertion of the minorities, the property values was going down, and vandalism and crime had increased in their neighborhood. I won't mention the neighborhood because I don't want to do that. But it really
shocking.
It shocked me.
In this day and age,
what was your impression when I sent that to you?
Shocked, and I sent that right onto our assignment desk and said, "Hey," and we've had several conversations about how to cover that. Now you have to have people like you that would want to get involved, or somebody that's familiar with the neighborhood and chatting. I mean, I think, and it's hard because, like you say, you don't want to give away. You don't want to start something to make it worse.
I don't want to add more fuel to the fire.
That thing you sent, that message you sent me was shocking. It's people making allegations and assumptions, and it's evil stuff.
Do we really know our neighbors? That's the big question.
And that's a very good question.
Yeah,
that's
do
right.
we really know them?
And do they know? Yeah. So we even talked to the newsroom about, do we bring the FBI into this? Do we get them involved? And then you can take it to a pretty high, but nobody's threatening. Right. But it was allegations. Yeah. It's kind of That's crazy. That's the stuff that's out there.
Since we had COVID, how has your life changed?
Well, I have got my Moderna vaccine all put away. I'm good to go.
I got mine the 21st.
Would you get, Pfizer or Moderna?
Moderna.
Yeah, Moderna.
Yeah. No, I got Pfizer.
Did you get Pfizer?
Is that the two?
Yeah, both of them are two.
Yeah.
Pfizer and Moderna. But Pfizer's the first one that was out there, and then Moderna's right next to it. Yeah, it was terrible. Kicked my butt on the second one. Did you? I was sick.
The second one, I don't say that I really felt anything I didn't feel because I work out. I guess it didn't have that much effect.
Yeah.
The muscle stiffness was definitely there, but I was already used to the muscle stiffness, but I can clearly tell. I did sleep a lot. Other than that, it was fine. I'm knock on wood. There's nothing else. What's your take on that? You think everybody should get it? Because we got a lot of people that are skeptical right now.
I know. Isn't it amazing to find out how many? I got a lot of people at work that are like, no, I don't think so. I was like, really? And I don't know. It's there's people who just, and I had this initially. It's like, you mean they're going to develop a vaccine that normally takes years to make? Yeah. They're going to do it in 10, 11 months? Really? Do we really understand all the, but I don't want COVID. Have you ever seen? I've seen. We've done enough stories about people with COVID, and I don't want that. So,
I had a client who, naturally I can't give their name, but she told me her story. Her sister went to the hospital during. It was right when we went to lockdown in February, and she drove herself to the hospital before they start saying you can't get out and stuff. Yeah. And she went in. Wasn't feeling good.
Yep.
Never came out.
That'll do it.
Never came out.
Yeah, I mean, it's serious. This is not the flu. The mortality rate is much higher for COVID. There's just been it's been a lot of misinformation, and you got people saying anything they want about it early on, and people are. It's hard to overcome that fear.
You as a news reporter, and you specialize in the health department. How is your station addressing the issue to remove those things? And I would trust you because this is something that you do, but we are still afraid of the newscasters. What are you doing as far as your part to make sure that people get accurate information and so forth with this? Because let's get real, it's not over. I think people think because there's a vaccine that it's over.
No, it's not over yet. And there's variants. There's now a new Texas variant that's out there, and it's more communicable. Yeah, what we have tried to do all along is just give out the facts from a scientific standpoint. We have deliberately stayed out of the politics. You find the politics and the opinions more on social media. You find it on certain stations. But we have just said, here's the facts. We've done specials. Now, I think 3 or 4 specials now concerning COVID and the facts, and talking to doctors and talking to nurses and talking to healthcare workers, people that are on the front lines, and really getting their opinions. And the science is on the side of getting this vaccine. And people can have questions about it, but there's a lot of information that is good information at this point. And don't believe all the craziness you might see online and social media. You got to stay with the science part of it. Just protect yourself. My mom had COVID too.
Really?
And she survived. My mother, she is bulletproof. I'm telling you, she's 92 years old.
Remember what she said? I bought that dress.
Yeah, that's right. I bought that dress. I said, okay, I know, I got it. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to get a job. Yeah, so yeah, she's a tough cookie. She got through it. But she was treated. She didn't go to a ventilator and do all that stuff. They got better treatments for it now. So.
On a lighter note, let's talk about my friend. And I want to give a special thanks to her for always getting the Beast hoodies and the Beast attire. Your sister. Yeah. Your twin.
My sister, yeah, a little younger than me, but yeah. She put on your shirt. She got. I think she would tell you that she went through kind of a period because she's helps my mom and dad quite a bit up in Naperville, and just got one of these things kind of let it go, and then finally it just hits, and she decided to get real serious about losing weight, and she's lifting and working out every day, and getting outside, and she's made a lifestyle change and very happy about it. Just back from Hollywood, she was assistant directing a show out there for Disney. So
what's the name of the show? Are you allowed to tell?
I think it's Bonked or Brunked. It's it's some kids show on the Disney I should know, but I could look it up, but it's one of her shows. It's a kids show on Disney. I know that.
How close are you two?
We're real close. We're really close. She's lived in California most of her life, but she's been now in Chicago and been there for a number of years. So we grew up together, you know. She was my little sis, and I sort of looked out for her. And she's got her life story too, and the whole Hollywood thing, and how many people she's met. Burt Reynolds. She's got a lot of good stories for you, you know.
I read. She won't return my phone calls.
I'll get her up here sometime, or I'll get her down here from Chicago. She'll be on your show sometime.
So on the lighter side, before we wrap up,
yep.
I'm going to ask 2 questions before we wrap up, and I'm going to close it off with my favorite one that you don't know is a surprise.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
The show is Beast, and we know that Beast isn't always going into beast mode, but Beast is a state of mind, and how do you keep moving forward? We went through pandemics where we're dealing with racial inequality. We're dealing with so many issues right now, worldwide pandemics, you name it. People feel like that they're not being treated fairly. What, in your sense, in that Beast frame of mind, what would you do differently to the world? What would you do, or what can you say that will make a difference to people?
Well, you know, I guess you have to kind of look at history a bit, and people have been through some tough times. And when you look at history, you look at the history of African Americans, you look at the history of just history in general. And people get through because they've got a beast frame of mind. They're going to be tougher than what they see the problem as, right. and they get inventive about ways to get to their goals. And that's what you got to do. You can't give up. You got to keep moving forward, you know, and you're going to have a few setbacks and sit around and, oh, pity me, and things aren't working, and my life. Those are temporary issues. You're on a permanent path to success and making yourself happy and those people around you. We just all want to be happy, right? I mean, isn't that kind of a goal? And sometimes you get thrown off your path. And no, that's part of life. It is part of life. You're going to have problems. And it makes you better if you go forward in a positive way, and talk with people like you, Andre. Talk with people who can motivate you if you're in a slump, because that helped me a lot, to just like somebody to kind of believe in me a bit and say, you know what, you can lose 60 pounds, you can make it if you just do this, and this, and then get serious about it. And weight loss is more like it's a consistency thing. You got to do it all the time. You can't give up. So just, you know.
We had the lieutenant governor on. Very nice lady. And we're going to talk about getting Governor Holcomb on as well.
That'd be great.
What do you think? How do you think their roles have been with addressing the issues here in our hometown? Because I think they've done a great job.
I do too. I agree with you. I think Governor Holcomb and Dr. Box have been on. They've been online. I think they're not doing this anymore, but for almost a year, getting on TV on Wednesdays at 2:30 and talking to people about COVID and what their strategy is and what's happening with it and what they're doing. I think he's been great. I really admired his leadership. I think he's done a wonderful job. Dr. Box as well. So, you know, they're trying to be transparent. They've told us when things are a problem. They've told us when the vaccines were going to be available. They said how they were going to do it. They want to get the oldest people vaccinated first because they're the most vulnerable. I respect his leadership. I think
I do too.
A lot of people are upset because he closed down so many, you know, and the masks and all this other stuff. But man, this is a pandemic. It's you know, it's different.
You have a protocol you have to follow, and I think people fail to realize that in order to prevent matters from being worse, you got to follow the protocol. And if he's our general or she's our general, we need to follow those protocols.
I'm with you.
Before we wrap up, tell me what keeps. Who is this?
Well, that's Bunk. That's what it is. Man, you got a good producer.
Boom.
You are on it. That is the show. Bunked. Okay, you're right.
So this is your sister's.
Now, that's not her. That's not my sister, but this is, as you know, you've seen her.
Yeah.
This is the show that she's assistant director for one of the segments that they did, one of the shows they did. Yeah, it's called Bunked on Disney.
So make sure we tune into that. And Debbie Knox's sister, what's her name?
It's Lisa Knox Nervig, Nervig.
Make sure you guys follow her on social media and watch this show. I'm definitely. What's it about? Do you know anything about it?
No, I don't know. Don't ask me. I have no idea.
Well, we're gonna have her on the show and she can
talk about Bunked. Right? She'll promote this. It needs a little promotion. Yeah, because I couldn't even remember it. So
Thanks, Jason. Good looking out.
Yeah, that was great. Good job. Bunked.
So on a lighter note, before we wrap up, tell me what makes Debbie Knox happy. It keeps you in that beast frame of mind. You know, what makes you get up every day and go, you know what, I'm glad to wake up today.
Yeah. You know, if being a mom, and I am a mom, and you're a father.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, if your children are happy, aren't you happy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, and I'm not everybody's a parent, I get that. But if I know that my kids are in a good place and they're happy and doing the things they want to do, that makes me very happy. You know, I'm very happy when I get to do stuff with you because you're very motivating. I mean, that's the other thing is get around people that kind of lift you up and that you can lift up.
Hit your wagon or something.
Yeah, that makes me happy, you know, and staying away from those people that can be kind of, you know, take you down. That it doesn't help you. So, yeah, children, being around motivated people like you, it's all good. It's all good. And knowing that, you know, really knowing in your mind that problems are temporary and they're not going to last. You can get through it. And that's some advice my mom gave me, as crazy as we all were back in the day. But hey, you know, you'll get better. Things will get better. Things will get better. Just know that. Know that. Live it, you know. That's what you got to do.
Check out what I'm about to ask her. I know what she's getting ready to do. So, tell me about your stance on the last president that was in.
Oh, what are you doing? You're getting me in trouble now.
We won't go there.
Talking politics.
Yeah, we're going to stay away from politics.
No, Woo! Debbie told me yesterday, she said, Dre, if you bring that up, I'm going to walk out. I figured she's just going to get up and just like walk out the door.
We'll end this show. I'll be like...
And the interview was going so well up to that point.
Yeah, that's a real dramatic way to end it, you know. But no.
But anyway, Debbie, thanks for being on the show. It's great to have you. We're definitely going to have your sister on and talk about, what was it called? Bunked D.
Bunked, yeah. Bunked D. Bunked, I don't know what it is. Yeah, but that's her show.
We're going to have her on here. And, you know, like I said, you're definitely an inspiration to everybody in the state of Indiana, worldwide. Thanks for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Andre The Beast Crayton Show and my guest, Debbie Knox.
Thank you, Andre.